One big event that happened for you was you lost a lot of team all at once.
From 10 down to 2. If you've built a team before, you know how to build a team. You can do it again. 1% better every day, 1% better, 1% better. And then, eventually that compounds and great things happen. You can't think that you just want to drive people hard and not feel that you are understanding and nurturing of what the needs of those people are. Oh my God, this is going to bankrupt me.
Hey Bronwyn, welcome to the Salon Owners Collective podcast. Really pleased to have you here.
Good morning.
Well, why don't we start with who are you, Bronwyn? Where are you in the world? What do you do? How did you get to be doing it? Give us an update.
Okay, so I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and I'm a twin, for those that don't know. And I know, amazing. And I'm a Salon CEO. That's where I am kind of right now. But where did I start from? I started as a little girl from Tapanui, which is in Hicksville, the bottom of middle of kind of New Zealand to the bottom. And I moved from there, went to Dunedin, started with a hairdressing firm there, did my qualifications. And then I decided after 4 or 5 years, I'd started winning some regional competitions. And I won a little New Zealand title. And I thought, okay, I want to go and learn something more. If I've kind of learned this almost by myself with just a little bit of help, what else could I do? My mother being English was a massive bonus. And so I took off to London. And when I was thinking about where I wanted to go, I was looking at the time, there was the big aesthetica magazines, and I was looking through there, and the work that I loved all the time was Tony and Guy. So that was my only option. And I just took off, hoping, praying that was going to happen for me. When I got there, I went in for an interview and they weren't taking people on because it was Salon International time, really busy time for them. And I was like, no. And anyway, they said, they'll be starting again in November. So went in, did my interview, got in, and had my very first day at the academy. And I saw these international art directors on stage. And I was blown away. I just took all the guesswork out of hairdressing. There was a reason why, there was a technique how, took all of that stress away. And I was like, I am sold. This is going to be my mission. This is my destiny. I am supposed to be here and this is what I'm supposed to do. So I am actually probably the fastest art director in history of Tony and Guy. All these opportunities opened. I'm very good at finding opportunities. And for me, I worked my way through. Not that I think speed is always the best way to do something in hindsight, looking back. But anyway, that was my journey. And I became an international art director, traveled around the world doing about 35 shows a year in different countries, or probably more shows than that, but at 35 countries. Became educating from the very beginning to the very senior and advanced kind of cutting. I kind of led I became then the international show director. So globally, I led all the big shows, and it was an amazing journey and worked with incredible people. Then I was entering competitions at the time. So I won some British titles. I've got 3 New Zealand titles. And I worked on fashion shows. I've worked in music videos with pop stars, and an amazing career, and the company has helped me get there. Then I decided I want to have a family, and I didn't want to do that in London. I did take a quick detour to Dublin to make sure that because I love my job so much, just to make sure that I was making the right decision. And that was an amazing experience. And it taught me a little bit more about business. And then I came home and did the salon. Became a salon owner. I definitely wasn't a CEO. I was a salon owner at that stage. Made many mistakes along the way, but learned because I was a creative. I'd not had that education in salon. So, it was an amazing journey. I ended up probably, I don't even know how many years ago now, maybe 10 years ago, I got a business coach, and that was life-changing for me. And I realized that actually to lead, you have to get help. You can't do that on your own. And that's not what a leader's about. A leader's about asking great questions and pulling that information from people. So, I went through and had to learn all those lessons. And and today, so I am the CEO of my business. I've learned how to lead. I've learned how to develop a team that all take areas and parts of my business, and that we do it together. I don't do it by myself anymore, which was a very hard lesson to learn. And and it was a beautiful lesson, because now we are a really solid team. I'm very protective of my team, and they're amazing. And together, whether I'm doing fashion shows still, or whether we're figuring out a new strategy of how to raise our standards, we do it together as a group, collectively. And that's kind of where I am now.
I love that. All right. I really want to spend some time talking about team, but before we do that, let's just dive into the brand Toni and Guy. For me, Toni and Guy was a big influence in my own journey. And interestingly enough, Bronwyn, for similar reasons. One, I loved the looks, but I could really see that they had a system and process. Like, to be able to replicate multiple times over, there's got to be some thread running through. Mm-hmm. And I watched them very closely, and it was very influential brand. So my question is, like, what has that experience been like, being able to be part of a global network? Tell us about that.
Yeah, look, it's been an amazing journey. I mean, I was very fortunate. Like, I've been with Toni and Guy for coming up to 32 years now, so a long time. And when I first started, there was only 10 salons in the world, and one was international. So it was quite small at the time compared to what it is now. And so I did get to, get up the company very quickly. But what I learned very, very early on, obviously when I was doing the introduction, was how they make everything very simplistic, very easy to understand. They do take away, that guessing. You never have to think, oh God, what should I do here? Or how should I do it? There is always a technique, a way. But not only that, it's not about plonking cuts and things on head. It teaches you how to really make it bespoke for a person. So it's all about that personalization. But not only that, Toni and Guy is all about a global family. And even though it's got to the size that it is now, it is still part of that global family. And it's been an incredible journey. I flew when Toni died. I flew to London for the night. It was ridiculous. Who goes to London for the night? I do. But he was like a global father to me, and he was amazing. I'm very close with Sasha, who's now our CEO, his daughter. And she taught me. We worked very closely. We were in London together, and when I became the show director, she was prior to me. And so she really took me under a wing and really developed my skills as doing avant-garde. And the other thing that I feel like with them is that, you've got these real leaders in there, but when you're on stage and you're with other amazing people, they just elevate your standard. And it just goes to show that, you've got to keep raising those standards all the time. And when I came back, and, I was kind of leading that, I was like, okay, how do I bring my team up so they're really motivating and inspiring me? And it was an incredible journey. So it's just taught us all about being a collective group, never being a solo group, how together you raise standards, and how together you can achieve things. And not just the one person as a collective group, but individually, and then how you help each other to do that and be supportive of each other.
Yeah, okay. I love that. You've been in business a long time now. How many years have you been a business owner? Back in New Zealand?
22 years now, I think. This is the 22nd year. We're 22 years in May. Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that happen in a 22-year career. I had my salon for 20 years. there's some lessons to be learned, and I know we're going to talk about those today. But it takes a lot, I feel, to keep changing and evolving. Like the world changes, the demographic of people coming in as employees changes, trends change, like there's constant change. Is that something that has been challenging over the 20 years, or is that something that you embrace? Like, what's your thought on that?
Look, it definitely has been challenging. You can't deny that. And there's been many times, and through some of my Tony Robbins study, Tony would say that it's seasonal. So, like right now, probably the world is in a winter season where things are really tough and it's hard. But when it's really tough and it's hard, it's when you learn and you grow the most. So that has definitely been part of that. And I think when you look back in those 22 years, that is very true. Like when I had a woman who didn't really rip me off, but she used to, I don't know, I think she wanted to make the accounts look good. And so she would redo the numbers. And so when I actually got this phone call saying you owed all this money, and I was like, what? But on the spreadsheet that she'd been giving me, it was like nearly 80,000 less than what I thought. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to bankrupt me. And I remember in that point going, this is where I need to become the owner of my business. So, I've made that mistake. And little by little, working with our partners and knowing that we were good for it, but we were going to get there, we would make that better. So that was a tough time. More recently, a few years ago, I got very, very sick. It paralyzed me. I became a perfectionist. I just got into this place where I couldn't move out of the way of my own space. And I had kind of 3 illnesses that I had to work through. And once again, it was like probably the worst time of my life. But again, it was the best time. And I ended up kind of going in and centering. And I knew that I had to be a better person. I couldn't lead my team in that space. I mean, I couldn't be a mother. I couldn't be anything in that space. And so once I got well, and I said to my team and I said to my family, just watch. I will get better. I'm really sorry I'm in this space right now, but through getting help, I'll get there. And that was probably the most life-changing moment for me. And I feel like I am such a better person for it. But it is seasonal. It is tough. There's being a business. And then there's lovely times where it's celebrational and yes, you reap and the fall and the autumn comes and all the rewards come. And then bang, it goes again. But it is all about resilience. We all know it's been because we've had COVID, we've had cyclones, we've had economic crises. So it is still a winter time and it's tough, but it's starting to feel like we're heading into spring. So, there's a little light on the other end of the tunnel, but yeah, it can be tough for sure.
It's a journey. Let's say it's a journey. I know one of the biggest lessons for me is to adjust my own expectation that things should be going well all of the time. Because when we have a mismatch expectation and we think it should be perfect all the time and it's not, I think that's when that entrepreneurial anxiety comes around, or we think we're failures, or whatever the internal dialogue is. Yes. And so I really like the season idea. It's like, I'm just in the season, bunker down, get through it because the sun will shine again. Yes. And I just think that's a really healthy mindset. I love that.
I think too, like what I do now, like, so last year was tough, right? Economically, it was really tough. And in the past, I used to probably get out there and catastrophize and think, oh, this is going to happen, all these things will happen. But actually, when I just backtracked and through the work that I did when I was ill, it was like, actually, life is a wave. I'm just in the crest now, but I'm going to be flying high on top of it very shortly. And actually, just ride the wave. And I just ask myself 2 questions. Can I do something about it? If I do, get a plan. I love a plan. No, you know where you're headed. But if not, ride the wave, ride down the river. It's not gonna be like this forever. And it does change, and you just get there.
Yeah, I always like to give myself a challenge, especially for smaller repeating dips, the gap I call it. It's like, how quickly can I move through the gap? Like, I know that there's going to be a gap. Like, the challenge is now, like, what plan can I put in place to make sure that the gap is as small as possible? Because there's always going to be a gap. It's not about not being in the dip or the gap.
Yes. Yes.
So one big event that happened for you was you lost a lot of team all at once. Do we want to speak to that a little bit? Like that's a pretty deep gap. It's a deep dip. How did you survive through that? How did you come out the other end?
It was a deep dip, and that was a time when I was very, very sick at that time too. So it was just at the end of COVID. And yeah, it was everyone was just wanting to go overseas. They were just desperate. They wanted change. So I had a good few, about 3 or 4 of the staff that wanted to go overseas. Some wanted to be closer to home, so they wanted to move out of Auckland. Some had some sick family members, which they needed to go and deal with. And I ended up with one other and me.
From how many, Bronwyn?
From 10 down to 2.
Wow.
And so it was really I don't know, you just were like, should I still be doing this? What am I doing? Like, how does this happen? And it's hard not to take it personally, but I had to really, and especially because I wasn't in a great space at that stage either. And so I had to just kind of go, okay. But also what I did learn through that is I did have 2 little poisonous eggs in here, or one particularly. And I also at that moment vowed that I can't do that again. If it doesn't feel right, if instinctively it's not right, even if it's going to cost you for the short term, it costs you more in the long term. And to be fair, that was a little bit of a cycle. And so, but you have to take accountability. You can't be blaming other people. You know, that was me for not shutting that down sooner.
Hey, it's me again. I just wanted to interrupt and jump in here quickly to say thanks for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate you being here. Just one question though. If you are listening to this episode and thinking, oh my God, this is me, but I'm just not sure what to do, well, don't worry. I've got some strategies for you. The Salon Mastery program will help you develop and implement 100K team, 100K mindset, strategies and steps designed to help you lead your team to enjoy 100K careers and install the 100K mindset and motivation so you can help build that inside of your team. The systems, the processes to master the 100K day so you can build the $1 Million Salon. So I want to invite you to join me for a complimentary $1 Million strategy call. We'll discuss your business, your role in the business. Let's see if I'm the right person to help you grow your business and your team. Together, we can reach the $1 Million mark. All you need to do is click the Apply Now button in the show notes of this very episode. You're welcome to book a time, a strategy call. We'll have a chat. All right, that's enough for me. Let's get back to the episode.
And so, you know, when you take accountability for it, also know if you've built a team before, you know how to build a team, you can do it again. And if you're always coming from that good place, then you will get that. And also there is a little bit of faith in there. You've just got to go, the right people will come along. You've just got to do it. Now, right now, with the overheads that I've got, with the amount of staff that I've got, what can I do with this gap? Can I speak to the landlord for a bit? Can I do, you know, like what can you do just until you get this transition point across? And yeah, and then sometimes you do things like I had someone come over from overseas and, you know, they were qualified. They didn't have all exact Tony and Guy techniques, but they were still a beautiful hairdresser. And, you know, the doors opened from COVID and you just had to put them on the floor straight away. So, yeah, you just do what you have to do in those times. But, you know, as long as you're clear, don't think when things get tough, don't just give up. Be clear on what do you really want? What do you want to achieve from whatever it is, your vision and what you've got with your salon? And just because it gets tough, because generally that's when you're going to have the biggest lessons. And they have been. I'm a much better boss from going through that. A much better boss. So, you know, find the celebration, find the wins, find the learnings, and then, yeah, just take the next step.
Bronwyn, you're big on developing your people. Like that's something that is really important to you. It's obviously served you well. What would be the top 3 things that that you think a salon owner should focus on when it comes to developing humans? Your team, so they serve clients best. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
but number one would definitely be the culture. And the culture would start right from the very first email when someone applies for a position. From the very first email, really kind of saying what you're about. And like in our team, it's like that premium level, and that isn't for everybody. Some hairdressers don't want to do it. It takes a lot of effort and demand. And, if you want to be constantly growing and constantly developing, some people think they might want it, but actually when they're doing it, it's hard. I'm having to make myself better every single day, even after 30 whatever years. I'm always trying to develop myself more and more and more and raise those standards. And so I think when you put that in place right from the very first thing, it tells them what it's about. When you do the interview, you're really selling your story. Does it resonate with them? And even in the interview, if I feel like they're the right person for the position, I always say to them, and I want to offer them that position, I want them to go away and really think about it in the moment. I might be able to sell a really good story, but I want them to think about what that really means, and are they prepared to do that? And so when they come on board, they know what the expectation is, and you've both kind of gone both ways, and obviously you've delved into them and discovered what they're about, and make sure that it's a good fit for your salon.
I think the really important thing that most owners miss, Bronwyn, is what you're speaking to, is we think we're interviewing them, but actually and making sure that they're a good fit, which is fair enough, but actually we need them to interview us and make sure that we're a good fit. Like that's really important, and we forget that sometimes. Because if they don't think we're a good fit, they're actually not going to be a good fit for us.
No,
That's part of being a good fit.
Yeah, and it
is
costs
that they want.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No, like I had that myself just year and a half ago, and this guy, and he's gorgeous, and I love him. He's so beautiful, but he wasn't like, he's a really beautiful hairdresser, but I think the way that I drove him and pushed him and tried to find a direction for him, it wasn't in line with him. And so that had to part, and that cost me, because I'm taking time to train him and do all of that stuff. But, and also it costs for the disruption to clients. And yeah, it's so you do need to get that balance, but it's super important. So that culture, I feel like, is not only there, but it has to start with you. If you're about growth and development, you have to be growth and development. If you want your business to look premium, then you have to turn up looking premium. If you want to raise your standards, you have to raise your own standards. Like whatever it is that you want to be, you have to embody that. If you want kindness and supportiveness in your salon, then you have to embody that. You can't think that you just want to drive people hard and not feel that you're understanding and nurturing of what the needs of those people are. So so that first one would definitely be about culture, but also sitting down. Don't you just think what it's about. So especially when I had that brand new team and I brought them all on board, then it was like, okay, what should we, as a group and collective, what do we think all our values are? And together we came up with that, because then they're going to embody it. They feel like they're part of it. It's not about me telling them.
Co-created.
Yeah, it is. And then you co-elevate because you've co-created. And so, it's that joint, it's getting in there, it's making everyone clear about what the expectations and what the culture is. So that would be my number one. My number two would be about getting very clear on their vision. What do they want? And that can be so many diverse things. It might be raising a level of, going from a stylist, and eventually they want to be an art director, so you can see that pathway and then you can draw that roadmap. But for some, it might be owning it, getting enough money to own a house or a car, or it might be a holiday overseas. And then knowing that that's their goal, how does your business create either that financial situation, or it might be just fitting in as a family initially. You know, they want just that companionship and to feel warm. So, okay, how do we wrap that around them? But whatever it is that they need, making that vision come clear for them, and knowing that they can see the pathway, and that they feel like you've got their back, and you're not just talk, you're actually actioning it. And they're like, okay, these guys know what they're doing. They actually make it all happen. So you're getting very clear on their vision, and how do you align it, and how do you get them to grow through to that and make it exciting, you know, like on that very first day. So I have a new staff member starting on Tuesday, very excited about that. And so I love that first hour with them, and I just talk about what they're doing. I generally already know what their vision is, because we've discussed that in the thing. So I start out and I do an education plan, and I start out with their first kind of 90-day goal that I put together, which is the third one, is finding a roadmap or a goal or a plan for them. And so ideally, we normally do this collectively, but in my first session, because it all feels a bit overwhelming, I give them the vision of where they're going to be in 3 months' time and what they will have achieved. And so when they get, and that is my sole focus for that person, is they are going to get there. And so by the end of that first 3 months, you've done a trial, so you know whether they're right fit for me. They also know whether you're the other way around. And so when that's achieved, both go, okay, we're getting somewhere. And it's excitement and there's energy, and then there's a celebration. It's like, you know, when I said that in the beginning, did you really believe me? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, and look what you've done. I love it, especially when you do it with assistants, because you're going to be doing da 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 da, and they're like looking at you as if to say that's not going to happen. And at the end, they're like,
I love that
I can't believe it.
You're giving them the moment to actually recognize what they've achieved, because I think too many people are either just looking around at today and like, what am I going to eat next? Or, you know, they're not looking back at what they've achieved, how far they've come, so then they don't have the vision to look forward that I can replicate. I love that that's like such an important piece. It's golden.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it also, you know, then the right people are with you when you do that, and they do too. They know where they're right with the right team. Yeah, and it's fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, I love that. So building a culture, really important. Like you set, the message there was like you set the tone, like you step up first.
Yes.
Creating a vision for your team, and then giving them a pathway and co-creating a vision.
Yes.
Okay, I love that. Bronwyn, you're a growth mindseted person. What is a mantra or something that keeps you focused and on the straight and narrow? Like, what is that right now for you?
Okay, so the one that I have right now is to disrupt and challenge. Obviously, we've had a tough time.
That.
And so everything, I got to a point last year where I just wasn't doing the financials that I wanted to. And obviously, for lots of reasons, we all have cancellations and all the things that were happening there. But what I just thought is like, if I'm going to really drive this forward, what is it that I need to do, and what do I need to challenge? And pretty much it goes across everything that I'm doing at the moment. You know, like even with the training, I feel like we have amazing training. How can we do it faster? How can we do it smarter? How can we have, and actually this was motivated by you, the $100,000 coach. And I was like, oh, I love that. I'm stealing that. And so, you know, creating a little system around that, and how do we do that, and how do my stylists who are doing that get the support to make that happen? And so, yeah, that disrupt and challenge, and it's with everything, even looking at some of your services, and you can't do it all in one go. That's the hardest thing. I'm a high D profile, if anyone knows DISC out there, and so I want to do everything at the same time.
All at once.
Yeah. So you have to just narrow down what's the one focus, what's the one change we can do, how can we make that happen, and what's the next one. I mean, I'll always have another 2 or 3 floating in the background because that's just me, like to be the overachiever. But yeah, it's that disrupt and challenge is a great one. My other one that we've had for other 2 probably. One is no one stands still. So it's always growing, developing. And the other one that just lies across everything is 1% better. every day, 1% better, 1% better. And then, eventually that compounds and great things happen.
Certainly does. All right, I love those. Bronwyn, I really appreciate the time that we've had together today. I know people are going to kind of want to find you, stalk you, like, who is this Bronwyn? Please, can you share your socials and your dub? Like, where can we stalk you?
Yep. So I am pretty much on Instagram. That's the main one that I'm on, and that's where you can contact me if you need to contact me. But then there's the Tony and Go websites that we're on there, and then there is the Facebook. I'm not as hot on Facebook, I have to admit. I need to get better. Maybe that's something I need to work on. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Amazing. I appreciate, we could have talked for another hour or two, so I do appreciate your time, your insights and your lessons. It's been great to have you.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Great. And that's a wrap.